Blessed be. I am Rekha Kurup, and this is the fourth video that I am creating in this journey of women's inner navigation system, the journey of dark light rhythms, and how to walk that light, dark, being, doing rhythm in life. And as you can see, if you moved from the third video and you're coming to this fourth one, you will see that there has been changes. My background looks different. I look different. And just that indication of change. The things are constantly changing and moving. Yeah, and sometimes when we are in that change, when we are in our life, we are unable to see the change, and so it's always when we step back and look, we can see that I am sitting here. The me that's sitting here is not the same me that made that video, and yet there was something that is still constant in me. So I'm very grateful to continue this journey with you. And we looked at the being doing rhythm. We looked at what is not nature. Then we started opening each layer. Yeah, we're looking at 5 layers of this rhythm that meets us. I mean, there are many more layers, but we are only focusing on these 5 layers. And we looked at the circadian rhythm, the 24-hour night day, yeah, light dark rhythm that meets us because we are here on earth. Yeah, and I've said this before, that every cell in our body is tuned into this rhythm of sleep awake cycle. We are the newest species that's embodied this rhythm. This rhythm has been in existence for billions of years, and all microbes and microorganisms and every species is tuned into it. There's a very small percentage of that species that is nocturnal, that does the reverse, that is awake at night and that sleeps in the day, and that is based on their own evolution process and the circumstances. And all these species who are awake at night, they have receptors in their eyes that lets them see. So it's like they have night vision goggles. Yeah. So we are not nocturnal because we do not have built-in. Yeah, we have to carry an external night vision goggle, literally. Yeah, an external torch that doesn't make us nocturnal. Yeah. So nature didn't give that. Today we can do many things by defying nature. And that's, I feel, is also what is the cause of our own dis-ease and discomfort, disconnection. Yeah. So let's continue this journey to discover more how this rhythm also unfolds in us, in addition to the day-night rhythm. What else is what we are present to? And so today we are looking at the seasonal, the annual rhythm. So this is, we have a year. Even this year is our own creation. There's really no year, right? So when we say year, we are talking about that it takes us almost 365 days to complete one rotation around the sun. So that's what it is. So we are moving, Earth is moving, rotating this way around its own axis, and it's also rotating around the sun. So when it rotates around its own axis, because it's doing that, yeah, it is creating the day-night cycle. And because it is rotating around the sun, it with the moon, and on its axis, there is this experience of season. Like there are shifts in the light. Throughout this 365 days, light moves very differently. Sometimes there is more light, sometimes light recedes, there's more darkness. And this has an effect on the vegetation, on the life, on our own movement, because sunlight is connected to a life force. So when this life force shifts, how do we care for this body? How do we support this body to be in alignment? Yeah. And we are learning to do this because we have moved away from a natural rhythm. Every other species which is on this planet, it knows how to do. A bear, as winter comes, will move into hibernation. It will start, it is built in to rest for long periods of time and to conserve its energy. But we are not. But we will also find a slow movement in us as winter comes. And yet, because we have created this unified movement around the world based on a calendar, and because we go to school and we have this learning, I mean, we have really shifted our natural rhythm. Yeah. And in a way that, how do we bring that back while being in this system, while being in this movement in the world? How do we honor ourselves through this rhythm, and to know that the rhythm is bigger? The rhythm is magnanimous. The rhythm is where our attention needs to be. Everything else is a subset of it. So let's go back. So I have this presentation, which I'm going to share with you, and we'll go from there. Okay. Okay. And here we have yes, this is where we have, I call the Women's Indian Navigation System series. And recently I've also cognized this word, Garbha Ritu Sanchalan. It is the womb movement, womb navigation rhythm. Yeah, for a woman specifically, because what we are discussing right now, it's part of everyone's rhythm, all life's rhythm, the seasonal and the circadian rhythm and the lunar rhythm. And now here we have, I just want to do a recap of what we have kind of learned so far or looked at so far. So everything is woven into the rhythm of the dark light, home, world, rest, activity, rhythm. So we have the home, when it is dark, everything kind of slows down, goes into deep, quiet stillness. And from there, yeah, and that informs safety. So this is also connected to our womb space. So if we can bring it to any aspect of our life, right? And then from here is where movement. So what is here shows up everywhere. Yeah, shows up in the world. So the relationships, the movement in the home is what defines everything that comes afterwards. So that's the being space. Yeah. And from here, yeah, there is movement of, yeah, when we are moving out of home, we begin this movement, and then it's moving from being to doing. And so how do we prepare ourselves to get out into the world, to be in relationships? Where we prepared in our life to be in relationships? So these all have an effect on how we are in relationships. So if things are not happening in a life for adults, we need to start looking at what happened. Instead of making ourselves wrong or making the other person wrong, we really have to start asking, what happened? Yeah. So here we have, then we are fully in the world, in relationships, in light, doing our bidding. This is where the transformation, all that, yeah, movement happens. Our intelligence gets expression, be able to speak, do whatever it is that we are. So if this space is really, we are not able to nurture and move into the space, this really builds on it. It tugs at our life force, yeah. And then, of course, there is a movement of coming back home. We always needs to incorporate coming back home, because it's in our breath itself. In breath, coming into the world, relaxation. Invitation into, invitation to rest, invitation to activity, invitation to rest. So it's built into our system. So we need to move back home, and we need to move into the world. We can't escape both. Yeah. It's how we move, yeah, is what determines this is our home space. What is home for us? How do we define home? How do we create home? How do we nurture home? To every aspect of who we are, our physical, our emotional, mental, emotional, our psychological, our spiritual, our creative. Yeah. So how do you prepare this movement? So if you have to go home, then you have to really let go the world and all that carries. Yeah, you have to leave it behind. So what is that process that you do? So this is the movement, right? This is like, I use the analogy of a seed to kind of show this happening. So just bringing that remembrance. I mean, if you look at nature, you find all the answers. All the answers are in nature. Yeah. So every seed, before it blossoms or flowers, it moves through a lot of challenges. Yeah. Even if we try to put it in a pot, there is no guarantee that the seed is going to sprout and go all the way to blossoming. There are insects that come finding it, or it might not get exactly what this particular seed needs, so you need that. So when it's in nature, it has to survive. And here, when you are the gardener, as a human being, when we work with the seed, we kind of want to tune in and to support it in all the possible ways. And the same goes with us as children when we come into this world. Yeah. So just bringing remembrance to this home space rhythm, and we're looking at every other rhythm as it maps on this movement. Yeah. So we looked at the 24-hour day, night, or night day, dark light rhythm. Yeah. So we looked at the 24-hour night cycle. Here we have. So now I'm going to show you in this 24-hour day night cycle, right? Just to give you this example of this movement of the earth. Yeah. It is slightly tilted. So if you look at this image, right? So you can look at what is the celestial equator. There is the celestial North Pole and South Pole, kind of that. We don't know this, but there is an axial tilt to Earth's rotation and Earth's own rotation around itself. And this is the way Earth is rotating. Yeah. And so, yeah. So thanks to the Earth's rotation on its axis, at any given moment, we are moving at a speed of 27.9 kilometers per second. Because Earth is so huge and because everything else is also moving, we really don't feel it, do we? Earth is moving at that fast. Yeah. And this is what creates the day-night rhythm on Earth. Yeah. And the biology of most life, including human beings, is tuned into this rhythm. And this is what causes the rhythm of sleep-wake cycle. Yeah. And the sleep-wake cycle is entrained with a master biological clock, that is part of our endocrine system, our brain, our cellular biology, with everything. Yeah. And it cycles between sleepiness and alertness at regular intervals. Yeah. So when you wake up in the morning around 10 a.m., if you're feeling sleepy, then you know that cycle is kind of disrupted. So you really have to give yourself the space for that to kind of come back into its regularity. Yeah. So life is able to move into wakeful alertness or the light cycle to engage in the activity of the world. Then it is able to move into the sleep rest cycle to renew this alertness, wakefulness every day. And if from our very childhood, this system is disrupted, yeah, then that fatigue, that lag, it's like it really builds into our system. And, in the way that we live in this world, we are sold so many ways to keep this system lagging. Yeah, instead of helping us come back and recover into this lag, we are taught to be addicted to things, to caffeine and to other external sources, which again further exhausts our system. right? So if that has been part of your narrative and you're coming back out of that, these different addictives and different coping, and you're learning, like me, to really be present to the natural rhythm, then also allow that fatigue to be known to you. And when it comes, shows up during the day, take a few moments to exhale, breathe. Don't feed it with food and other things. Just make room for it. Sometimes go horizontal for a few moments. Do practices like Jinshin Jitsu, any of those very slow yin-based movement practices. All those really help to kind of nourish that fatigue in us. Okay, and I am, so this is the, okay, yeah, and so let's continue. And here we have again, so this is a recap. We again here have those 24-hour clock and the key metamorphic pit stops that I spoke about, which are gateways of transition that we have to be really mindful of. All ritual maps were based around this metamorphic pit stop. So here we have the 3 a.m., dawn, 9 a.m., noon, 3 p.m., dusk, 9 p.m., and midnight. Yeah. And we know that, this is, just wanted to kind of take a moment to show this. So when we wake up in the morning, we, dawn or before dawn, post dawn, when we wake up, it's good to wake up in this time. Yeah. After you wake up post this time, the heaviness will take a long time to get out of your system. That means you need to go to bed between around 9 p.m. or between 9 to 10 or 9 to 11, and you wake up around within this time, and then you really need to make space to let this inertia, because you are kind of in sleep, which means the earth element really increased in the body. It was heavy so that you could sleep. So when you have to now move into this world, this heaviness has to become light. So all the activity that you do from waking to becoming, going into the world, into light, needs to be really about what you eat, has to be that brings lightness. So you don't eat heavy things. You need to drink a lot of water, which water brings flexibility, moldability, lightness, detox, and the practices. So your breath, air element has to really kind of be nourished and risen. Yeah, it needs, so your feet can get up and be lightly walk. So that means doing breathing practices and practices that really lighten your breath, right? So that way you find the footing to stand up and walk into this world. Yeah, so that is the most important thing in the morning. Water cleanses, air element really brings lightness. So from earth, we are moving ourselves to air. Yeah, so that we can move into this world and with all the other. So once we enter into light, yeah, about this fire. So there are different kinds of fire. Yeah, there is the fire of the belly, there's the fire of learning, there's a fire of love, there is the fire of being met by the world, criticized, or that kind of this conflict with the world. Then there is, that is the fight, yeah, that fire. Then there is the fire of literal fire, heat, the sun. So this fire has to really be nourished and taken care of. So you can't be, you want this fire, but that fire cannot dominate your system. So this time, depending upon the seasons, will shift how you move, how you engage, right? So how you eat. So if you don't eat, then that fire again exhausts the system. It burns inside, it stays on. If you anger, so anger is the emotion connected to this part of the face, right? This part, this activity. There's also anger. There has to be enough anger in our life that we can say no. And if we really sense that people are not honoring us, respecting us, we need to kind of say, hey, I am not going to be a part of this. If you cannot give me your 100% attention for now, I step back, or we can have a conversation. We can go there, but if you're not there, I move back. Yeah. So this time you also know that you are a separate individual. Yeah. So if this is, I'm talking to adults, so I say that if you're a child still doesn't know that. For a child has a merged identity. Yeah. So it will take things personal. That's what a child is supposed to. Otherwise, it won't survive, right? So with the children's anger, with small, small things, you need to really meet it with love. And love is water. Yeah, the coolness of love. So a child needs to meet that. Then there's a difference, right? And then, of course, then we from here for meeting and working. So this time and this energy of this doing, the fire, has a huge effect on our life, because this is where we are in world and relationships, and how we were received, mirrored, attuned or not attuned with, supported or not supported in our childhood, in our young days. And when I say young days, I mean from 0 to 24. Yeah, is what really shows up in later years of our life. Yeah, because this is 24 to 48 years of our life. When we look at life cycle, you will see that. So I'm giving those, bringing that attention right here. And then we move into, so every phase has an end point. The earth moves, then the sunlight starts dipping. So at 3 p.m., there is a dip. If you're tuned into the atmosphere, you will know that the first quietness emerges, spaciousness, just there's a window that opens at 3 p.m. If you're tuned in, you will know that there is a shift in light. And then this 3 p.m. will shift, this light will shift based on seasons, and that's what we will see in this time, right? So then we move into, now we have been at earth and fire, yeah, water, nourishing, yeah, and now we need to come back as we are moving way back into the to the night. We need to come the lightness, we need to also ground that lightness back into earth so we can go back to sleep. So it's like this again, the cycle that starts happening. So we need the air first. We can't immediately take out the air, because the air also helps. It moves, it releases, it lets go, it helps us shed things. So we need to, again at 3 p.m. around that time, do some breathing, come back into that spacious awareness, go there, release, start remembering home, start making room for rest, slowing down. And slowly, as we are moving towards a 9 p.m. window, don't initiate activities that will open up your air element, like too much talking, too much activity, too much movement. During as you're moving you have to slow that down, so you can bring water element into it, having a shower, soaking your feet in water, having very light, dimming the lights in the home, very slow music, things like that really calm us down. And that's how we move towards, and if you're hungry, have something very light again. And again, depending upon the season, you can have heavy. Yeah, you can have full meals that will really take you and guide you into sleep. Yeah. And then of course comes the night, where it is the fire goes inwards. Now the fire really inside needs to digest and release, and all these elements are working inside, and outside we are resting. Yeah. So earth element needs to predominate in our mind and other things, so they can all kind of calm down. And this is when we really needs to be in sleep. And if in our home environment from childhood, we have really not had that kind of safety and nourishing in those early years of our life, then we may experience that this window can get really difficult to get really deep sleep, to access deep sleep. We might spend more time in dream state. And these are, as women, I would invite you to start recording and charting your dreams and dream cycles and how it waxes and wanes with seasons, with the moon, with your blood. Well, and now from the 24-hour clock, we are now expanding into our rotation around the sun. It takes us a year to go around this big cruise around the sun. Yeah. And so here is an image of the movement, how this movement around the sun in the northern and the southern hemisphere creates seasons. Yeah. So you can see here, and the way the sunlight hits different parts of the earth is what causes seasons. So you can see how the northern hemisphere is more tilted. Yeah, like, and the southern, you can see how the movements are, right? And so winter, you can see how in winter in the northern hemisphere causes summer in the southern hemisphere, and how winter in the southern hemisphere causes summer in the northern hemisphere, and vice versa for spring and autumn. So you can see the exact opposite how that happens, where the spring and summer and autumn happens. Yeah. And now I have this video. You know, I love these what do you call it, time-lapse videos that show, that bring so much context. Yeah, we can see how time moves. Yeah, so this is a year in 40 seconds. Can you believe that? Yeah. So I'm going to just play it for you and see, just stay with your body as you see these different movements of light and dark. Just keep looking for every movement on the frame. You can pause where you need to and just see what's happening and how that opens for you. Wow, every time I watch this, it has an effect. Yeah, so just take a moment if you want to kind of journal or take a pause. You can pause the video and take a moment to kind of see what's present for you, what you saw, and how was that? It was too fast. Yeah, it was really fast. A year in 40 seconds. And so here we come back, the same map that we use for the day. Here I'm using it for the winter, spring, summer, fall. And in summer, towards the end of summer and just before fall, there is rain. So there is a rain that comes in most parts, tropical parts, closer to the equator. There is more rain during this time. And so it is this, I can't show you. There is this axis which is between fall and summer and between winter and spring. Both these points can get rain, depending upon where we are on the planet. And you can also see the equinoxes and the solstices as the peak of each of these seasons. And then I'm just going to put the midpoints of these times, and May 1st, August 1st, November 1st. And so you can see this, right? So the whatever solstice is, like when we say solstice, the 20 to 23rd, right, of December in Northern Hemisphere causes winter solstice. And then this, around the same day, 20 to 23 of every month, yeah, in the tropical calendar, it opens a new zodiac, a new month. Yeah, so it'll like, we enter the winter solstice opens Capricorn and summer solstice opens Cancer. Yeah, and so in the same way, spring equinox opens Aries, which is the beginning of the zodiac wheel, and fall equinox or autumn equinox opens Libra, which is the midpoint, yeah, of the zodiac wheel. And June solstice, like this summer solstice and winter solstice, these are very important point. Winter solstice Cancer, which is the moon, which is the home of moon, and then comes sun. So both these zodiacs are, so these zodiac movements are also very powerful. There's a shift in energy. Yeah, so this one, and this Capricorn is Saturn, which is again very harsh, the harsh time. That's the constellation that's kind of opened. And so here again, Earth has seasons, just some wisdom around the season. Earth has seasons because its axis is tilted. Earth rotates on its axis as it orbits the sun, but the axis always points in the same direction. So the axis of the Earth doesn't change, right? And so like this, yeah. So you can see northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere. And so here just to see how, so if you look at December, it's summer in south. You can see how it is, right? Because winter, the northern hemisphere is away. It's leaning outward, so it's away from the sun. So we have winter in the north and summer in the south, because the southern hemisphere is really opening into the sun. Yeah, because then it rotates in that axis, and that when it reaches that part of the sun, and then if you come on this other side, when it is on the other side in March, as you can see, it is winter down, and it is fall is south of the equator and spring is north of the equator. In the same way, when it comes to in June, you can see how the Earth is tilted towards. So we have north has summer and south has winter, or south has cooler weather and north has hotter weather, as we are leaning into. So it is this movement, right? So it is, so if this is the axis, if something is leaning this way, so it leans out and then it comes back, it's leaning in. So it's the same axis, right? So when it goes this side and comes that side, its movement kind of changes. So you can see September again, what's happening. Yeah, why the north has winter, because it's outwards and inwards like that, right? So you can see how the lower part becomes spring and the upper part becomes winter. So yeah, I thought this was really, it's because the Earth is tilted. So if it was like this, everyone would have the same weather at the same time, right? But because we are tilted, we have this interesting opposition that's happening at the same time on planet Earth. Now, sun, the hero of the story, the star of our universe, yeah, star of our system, star of our Milky Way. So let's get to know the sun a little bit. So our Earth takes 365 days to move around the sun. So when your birthday, when you say I am 20 years old, that means you have had 20 revolutions around the sun. Yeah, so you've moved 20 times. You've completed 20 rotations around the sun. And the Earth's axis is tilted from the perpendicular plane of the ecliptic by 23.45 degrees. And this tilting is what causes the 4 seasons. Since the axis is tilted, different parts of the globe are oriented towards the sun at different times of the year. And summer is warmer than winter. because the sun's rays hit the earth at a more direct angle during summer. So in summer, the equator, those who are closer to the equator, they have much hard, stronger summer, like just above the equator, right? And during summer, and days are longer, yeah. And during winter, the sun rays hit the earth at an extreme angle and the days are short. And these effects are due to the tilt of the earth's axis, like we saw, yeah. And the solstices are days when sun reaches its furthest, farthest northern and southern declinations. So the winter solstice occurs on December 21 or 22, and it marks the beginning of winter. So it is the shortest day of the year, yeah. And summer solstice occurs on June 21st and marks the beginning of summer, and it is the longest day of the year, yeah. And similarly, equinoxes are days when day and night are of equal duration. So it's from the long day when we come into the equinox, then it is night starts increasing. So the day gives a handshake to the night and night takes on. And when long night meets the day, the spring equinox, and then the day takes on. So I see it like this exchange of batons of light between the, these different equinoxes. And vernal equinox and the autumn equinox. Vernal equinox is also the spring equinox. And we spoke about that. And the autumn equinox happens in September. Vernal equinox or spring equinox occurs in March. Of course, we have all learned this in school, and yet nobody really brought it into the context of our body, because these movements, they have an effect on us because sun is the source. So the more we are away from the source and the more closer we are to the source and at this right distance, it has an effect on us. Yeah. So now let's come back to the clock is already here. We can see the 24-hour clock, and on this I'm going to bring the seasons. Yeah. So there you have it. You have the seasons. So you can see that December to Jan energy is very similar. Quite similarity to 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. gateway. And February through April has this energy to 3 a.m. to 9 a.m. gateway. And May through July has this energy of summer. And then August through October has the energy of autumn. Yeah. And in India, like we have between August and that July period is when we have rains. That's a very core rainy season for us. Yeah. And so it kind of really quenches us summer and it leads us into fall. Okay. And so, yeah, so you have the midnight, dusk, dawn, noon. So you can see these interconnections. Yeah. And so in India, we see the year has two halves, and all our rituals and festivals are divided based on this map. So one is the Uttarayan. It is entering into masculine light, which starts with Capricorn. And which starts the Uttarayan cycle. So in a way, when winter starts, we are also entering into, because winter is a peak of darkness, and then light is beginning. As darkness begins to reduce, that means light is increasing. That's what starts our Uttarayan or masculine light cycle. And when we enter into spring, okay, let's look at this. So our biggest window of festivals is during this time, from February, right in Uttarayan, all the way till May. We have so many festivals that prepare us for summer, that is really, I see this in-between period as the maximum festivals. And then we have summer. And as July, with the beginning of Cancer, Dakshinayan starts. Yeah, with rain, Dakshinayan starts. It's a downward, it's like the sun is down. Yeah. And that we call it the feminine dark cycle. Yeah. When there is more darkness, we really take that time for rest, remembrance of ancestors, shedding, clearing, giving gratitude. Many of these festivals start opening up during this time. So this phase of autumn and spring sees the most festivals. Yeah, most rituals happen during this time. Of course, we have rituals every month that people do based on the moon. That will come to when we enter the moon. But this is, I'm looking at the sun-based, yeah, the sun-based movement. So these festivals, yeah, and there's nothing sun-based in India because when we look at the sun, we're already also looking at the moon. So it's their intersections is where we have our festival map. Yeah, and then of course winter and summer are the least. Yeah, so this is again, I want to show these energies so that we remember this and we can make time for this. Yeah, and this is the southern hemisphere, so you can see southern hemisphere is exactly opposite. Yeah, everything is like gets a mirror image, it shifts. And now let's look at spring, when spring happens. Yeah, so wherever you are, when spring is happening, it is very similar to 3 a.m. to 9 a.m. So if you look at that, 3 a.m. to 9 a.m., you're really not going to be up at 3 a.m., right? It's a time of deep rest. It is a time of, then you slowly wake up. Yeah, but light comes much early. So if you're tuned into light, then by 5 a.m., sometimes there is light and you are up. Yeah, and this is again, you wake up, it's like this time of real stretching. So spring is also this time of preparing. Yeah, preparing yourself for life. So taking it easy. Actually, it's not really taking it easy, because spring is when in all of the year, that's the best time when you have energy. Your energy, it's this new fresh leaves of energy. Yeah, that's really spring. It's like the springing into life. Yeah, and we need to allow ourselves that movement in spring. It's when ice caps melt, water flows, so allowing that's incorporating a lot of movement and flexibility and detox in spring is very, very important. Creating space in the house is spring cleaning. It's a great time to really let go of things because you're entering into new beginnings. So giving away old things, making donation to charities that you care for, giving. Yeah, this is and walk consciously. So spring is a time when a lot of the unconscious can emerge because we're just coming out of winter. So we really need to create space to bring light to all those dead places and to clear them. Yeah. Yeah, and life. So as spring is happening, you look at the earth, there's also kind of things are like sprouting and coming out of the earth. So really allow your senses, like sight, eyes to see flowers blossom, hear chirping of birds and the sound of wind and leaves, these sounds, smell, fragrance. Spring has so much fragrance, allowing those to meet us. And really with our skin, really taking off dead skin, massages, whatever it is that you need to do, taste, nourishing your taste. So revitalizing your taste buds in spring, eating really the fresh things that come into seasonally. Yeah, all the spring produce, getting enough sunlight because you're coming out of winter, then giving yourself enough soak early morning. So sunlight. Fasting is good. Voice, nourishing your voice, singing, dancing, moving. So we do like what we do in the morning time. I said about really releasing inertia and heaviness. You do the same in spring. Yeah, so during spring, this time of morning, yeah, like early morning till 9 a.m. becomes really important. So you can make full use of this time to kind of nourish your life force. Plan vision for the year. Yeah, your boundaries, reassessing relationships, reassessing boundaries. All of this is very, very important in spring. And of course, from spring, we move to summer. Hold on. I am going to take a moment to okay, move this down. I have this. Okay. So just doing a recap again. And I wanted to take a moment to show you in India, especially, and I would invite you to see what rituals predominate in your part of the world. Yeah, in your part, these earth-based rituals. So I'm not talking about religion-based rituals. I'm really looking at the earth map, the earth, the old indigenous Gaelic traditions. Yeah, earth-based traditions that exist on your land before religion predominated or came into existence. Because these early rituals were not about so much about God, but they were about really honoring light and dark and this interconnection, interconnected knowingness of everything, you know. And in India, we have something called as Shivaratri. So Shiva now has become part of religion and it's become a Hindu god, but there is nothing called God in Shiva, and Shiva is not a man. Shiva represents this very sacred, innocent consciousness of masculine consciousness, sacred masculine. And I would even call, yeah, sacred, this will, this very innocent will that rises in spring, that, yeah, that is the movement. And this night is when they say that, and so that is one aspect of Shiva. And for me, so this is the general, for me, what I would say is, for me, Shiva is also the consciousness, the beingness. And the will rises from the being, right? So the beingness in this is, so as we enter into spring, we have this festival where it is believed that beingness comes and nourishes, kisses everything on this planet to start blossoming. So it is that celebration of that aspect of this being quality that will now descend, is there. Now it will come out as life and expression. Yeah. So that is Shivaratri. It's a night festival, whole night. We people spend time chanting, fasting. So it is this way of entering into life. Yeah. And then in my, where I come from, in my part of the world, in Kerala, there is this festival again of desire and will. So we have this energy of kama. Kama means will, desire, dreams, wishes. So we really bring it into form. So it's a women's festival. Women create dolls with clay of that, and they bring it from outside over 9 days inside the home. And in North, there is Holi, which is a color festival, which celebrates the colors of spring. People throw water and color. So water, again, you know, that melting of ice into water, flow, flexibility, sexuality, fertility, all of this in nature starts really showing up. You can see this young fertility. So many of these festivals are of young girls and boys, young maiden. It has this maiden quality. All the festivals have maiden quality to it. Then we also have the spring Navaratri, which is Chaitra Navaratri, which is one of the two main Navaratris. There are 4 Navaratris. 2 are very predominantly celebrated publicly, and the others are more secret-based and more silent, not popular. So this is one of the popular spring Navaratris. It's again like we have Puram in Kerala. In many parts of other parts of India, we have Navaratri, which came, I think, much later. Yeah. And it is a 9 nights festival again of, so from Shivaratri, that consciousness comes and blesses life. And then life begins to sprout into happening, into existence. So Navaratri, 9 nights, is a symbolic representation of the 9 months in the womb and birth. So it's 9 nights of really honoring the elements, yeah, the earth, water, fire, air, yeah, and ether. So these elements are really, people enter our food practices, the chanting, meditation. So every aspect of this elemental consciousness is purified through rituals, through what we eat, through where we give our attention, how we show up in the world. So this is like a very powerful energy, yeah. And so that is there. And then we also have, we enter into New Year's zodiac as we enter into spring equinox. We all have, every part of India has these festivals of, we begin the entry into Aries zodiac. It is seen as the new year, new beginning, new clothes are brought. Everyone celebrates it differently. Different foods are eaten, cooking with the fresh harvest that came, the very spring. So there's a lot of celebration, vibrancy, chirping, not just of birds, but also of people, kids laughing, playing. That was, old culture when I grew up, and now I already see it changed, because it's about things, and it has become about things, and it's become the attention is more outwards than in the togetherness and inwards. So that's the shift with modern things that are happening, because it's become commercialized. We have commercial ads and fairs and seasonal discounts, and so people make this a shopping spree. So the energy is very different now, yeah, than from it was where there was no media, no TV, no nothing. So here I have these images. So in India we have 6 seasons, yeah. We have Hemant and Vasant. So this the spring, as in the big spring, consists of this very early Hemant, early spring, which is Hemant, and Vasant, which is spring, yeah. So here I have these images from Krishna's life, yeah. So, and you can see a lot of sexuality, fertility, play. So spring is all about play. So that's something I really need to kind of emphasize. Play is the energy of spring, and we forget that. We completely forget that play, because that play has become very trauma infused. It's become very reactive. And play really requires safety, and that also over the years kind of has shifted. So, it's that kind of innocent play is becoming more and more absent in the predominant culture today with spring. And then, of course, some healthy tips here. So these are images from some festivals. So the top image is from Punjab, because they have Baisakhi, which is the festival opening of the zodiac year of Aries, which happens in April. And then you have Holi, you can see. So this is really some beautiful images of spring here. So yeah, here are some tips for spring. In spring, avoid naps in the afternoon. We don't sleep in the afternoon. Keep yourself kind of that energy going. So when you sleep, you bring back the inertia that in spring we are kind of trying to transform. So what could you do? You could do some creative, you can listen to some music, you can meditate. Yeah, take a power nap, which is 15 minutes or 5 minutes, like the dip in consciousness, but don't become horizontal. For the nap, you can keep sitting around 3 o'clock. You'll have this dip into consciousness and back. So dry brush, spring is a great time actually to dry brush the body. Yeah, all kinds of really clearing your skin of dead cells. And avoid like dairy, alcohol, meat, caffeine, sugar, all these, because what you're trying to do in spring is really nourishing the life force energy. So everything that kind of comes in way of it is what we are trying to avoid. So this spring is a great time to work on your addictions, work on your habits, yeah, creating new habit patterns, self-care, yeah, strengthen your limbs and the core. These are the times. So brisk walk, fast walk, every, that kind of movement, fast, chirpy. If you look at young rivers at the very beginning stage of rivers, you can see this very fast, jumping kind of movement. That's the energy of spring, and we can invite that into our body this time. Skipping, jogging, all those kinds of movements, yeah, with play. So the attention is play. Play has to exist. We can't make it serious. Yeah, then we lose the energy of spring. And then we come into summer. And as from spring, when we transition to summer, I just love this image. If you can look at it, such a full-bodied image of abundance and nurturance and fertility and, I don't know, success and life in its full blossomed manifestation. Yeah, the woman, even her stance of sitting, so beautiful she looks, and the white pigeon at her vagina, so comfortably in her. This is Mother Nature here. Yeah, she is given birth and she is given it, and now she is like the queen, in a way. She's giving, she's ready, open, and giving to you. That is summer, when Mother Nature is fully showing herself without, with sheer abandon. Just take, here I am. Yeah. And it's when light reaches peak. So you can, I just have all these delicious things that I love, all the berries that I love, and a whole bowl, like it is so appetizing and tempting if you look at it. And then sunflower, yeah. So let's look at what are about the summer. Days are long, early sunrise, late sunset. And this phase marks growing and working, towards great yield, both within and without, celebrating bounties, sharing with each other. And this is, it sees the movement into world of relationships, and most places in the West, especially the Northern Hemisphere, summer is when there's also summer holidays, people go on vacations, family time. So there's a lot of sound and talking and conversations and coming and gathering. It's a busy time. It's a busy time on earth in human community. Days get longer, fire dominates outside and inside, and body perspires heavily. Hunger may go down to balance heat, or hunger may rise to consume. So both can happen. Yeah. So in this, incorporate a lot of fresh eating, raw eating. Grab, your nature will give you very specific fruits and vegetables, and incorporate that. Mangoes, eat a lot of mangoes in summer, and in summer usually you don't get so hungry. Yeah, so it's not a time for that kind of eating. Actually, in summer you drink a lot, you eat what comes, eat raw, so you keep yourself moving. And yeah, outdoor activities, give generously to all aspects of life. This is most important, to really take care of your fire. Yeah. So this is also when frictions happen, conflicts happen. And one way to really care is eat. As soon as you feel hungry, eat. Eat around noon, just before noon. Keep your belly satisfied. Yeah, eat a full meal, eat a whole meal, eat meals that come from nature. Yeah. And so once the belly, then your digestion. So if you want to exercise during summer, it has to be early morning. Don't exercise when the sun is at its peak. Exercise early morning, exercise in evening, yeah, but not with fire. So you build the fire so that you keep this fire nourished. Yeah, stay cool. So And now here I want to show you some of the rituals that exist in summer. Yeah. And summers actually don't have so many rituals in India. But what comes up, I want to show here. So rain comes. Rain is something really awaited during summer, and that's what the balance is rituals. We have Summer Navratri, which is quite, it happens in Cancer, but it is much more quiet. It is usually practiced by spiritual seekers because it really needs to play with fire and fasting. So you don't really do that if you don't have that kind of a strong relationship with your fire. And so here we have Grishma, which is called as summer, a lot of fanning and comfort and leisure and relaxing. Yeah. And we have Varsha, which is rainy season. Yeah. And here are some tips for summer. Keep the fire in balance. Stay hydrated, drink lots of water. Don't drink cold water in summer. Actually, if you are possible to drink warm water, I mean, it's the best, because what happens is, because there's so much heat outside, our body's continuously sweating, and as body sweats continuously, its temperature goes down, so the body produces more heat. So if you drink cold water, the body has to now work against this cold water. So if you keep drinking hot water in summer, it supports the body to not work so hard, to keep increasing the temperature. So warm water really supports that. Yeah. So like if you go to Kerala, which can get really hot in summer, you will see people giving you boiling hot water in restaurants, and people, those who come from outside, they get frustrated. But you'll notice that if you drink those hot water, sip it slowly, it has a very powerful effect on the system. It gives you nourishment. It is very nourishing. Eat more raw, locally grown, colorful, because it's light color. Your meal needs to look colorful, not bland and dead, but really alive and colorful. What you wear needs to look colorful. Wear colorful clothing. Allow colors to meet your sight, flavors to meet your mouth, fragrances to meet your nose, and even touch, invite touch and community and hugging and laughing, holding hands, being with friends. And yeah, take a siesta. So summer is a great time to have a nap. So all countries in summer, which have go in peak summer, which still follow the old culture, they close for a long period of time during lunchtime. People will not, shops won't be open for 2 to 3 hours. People have a nap and everything, and then they show up like when the sun's harshness has dipped. So after 3 or 4 is when the shop opens. The shop will close around 1:32, and then it only opens at 4:30. Yeah, then they will be there for 8:39 because light stays longer. Eat a lot of these sweet fruits, especially in tropical areas like where I come from. During summer, we have so much mangoes, jackfruits, papayas, guavas, all these juicy fruits, and many other, melons, some other kinds of fruits also in passion fruit, and then bitter gourds, and many of the other, lady's finger, or okra, gourds, different kinds of gourds, creepers that go up and hang down, those kind of fruits. Gooseberries increase during this time. And so these are some tips for summer. Drink a lot of water. And then from summer we transition. Summer, rain, just already starts cooling the earth. Then we transition into autumn. And autumn is when we will see that light begins to dip. And autumn begins in India with Dakshinayan, with Cancer. With the beginning of rain itself, we enter into autumn in India, or we call it Dakshinayan. And this is this time of really learning to cool down, slowing down our pace. So summer, you get so active, people. And when we move away from all of that, suddenly you will feel this space open up. You've gone for a vacation, and then you come back, and you got back to work, and there's this emptiness. And that's how many times we enter into spring. into autumn. And that's how it is. It really, that emptiness now needs to be filled with the beingness. So it's that movement, that space opens up. And we need to allow that space to open up and to meet with it, because that's the truth. The truth lies there. That space is what is the truth of who we are. This space will consume us. We will return to the space at some point in our life. Yeah. So we build this relationship. So autumn opens up that emptiness. Yeah. So remembering. Yeah, this is a time of remembering. Allowing the old to fall down. If you see in nature, leaves start shedding. And so it is making more room for the sunlight, so soul to come. So you also need to create, with all this relationship and world and people and doing, so much collection happens. And so as we enter autumn again, we do this lightening, we release things. This is too much. This is not needed anymore. I let you go. I am great. This happened. Wonderful. Now I let you go. So we need to release, just like trees shed their leaves so that sun's light can come in. So also in our own body with autumn, there is an emptiness that starts happening. So we need to make room for this emptiness and release whatever is not needed, so we can kind of explore this further. Yeah. Yeah, dryness opens up. There's kind of winter here. Air begins to dominate because leaves have to fall. And we will start seeing a lot of water, fruits filled with water, like cherries and plums, I think, in the US. I remember cherry trees. There's just 1 month in from mid-August or September that the trees will get filled with plums. Just in a month, they just are gone. Yeah. So they'll all fall. So that month, it nourishes this moisture need as we enter into winter. Our vitamin C, all that we need, because in winter, as winter comes, our immunity starts shifting. Yeah. So vitamin C, all this helps that aspect of our air element, lungs, lungs, air is connected to lungs and heart. So lungs and heart, this whole area, cold, this is our heat area. So as autumn and winter come, and as cold opens up outside, we really need to protect these parts. We need to protect our ears, all the points through which air enters. This nose, our navel button, these joints, joints of our knees, joints of our these joints, all these need to be oiled. Yeah. Because they all have spaciousness. Every place where there is spaciousness, your hip, pelvic. So these areas really need to be taken care of. This is also time when old wounds open up. Yeah? Deep vulnerabilities open up because emptiness opens up. And with that comes a lot of these old wounds connected. When we are moving towards being space or death gateway as well, it's time to look at ancestors, engage in ancestor rituals. So in most rituals around this time will have these kind of energy. We practice to go to bed early. Yeah. And this is when, so as autumn and winter opens up, melatonin secretion in the northern hemisphere with increase in darkness increases. That means you might tend to feel sleepy. Yeah. So during the evening, early evening, take a nap. It's okay. Or go to bed early. Wake up, late. It's okay. Yeah. Sound-based practices are really good during this time in autumn. Intermittent fasting. So I have these images, if you look at them itself, you can see something really, a deep quietness, like 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. gateway, like 3 p.m. shift opens up in nature in autumn. Deep quietness. It's like things are rolling back in. Yeah, things are pulling in, tugging in. So melancholy, that kind of, you don't know if it's sadness or gratitude. You really don't know. There's this energy is very different from summer when fire is like predominant and joy and play takes on a whole different dimension. And whereas in autumn, there is a dip there. There's a grief gateway that opens up, melancholiness. And it's the most festival season. And these festivals are actually quieter festivals in many ways, but the way they have been rebranded, they've become extremely loud. And yeah, it's the same energy of summer can meet here, and it's very exhausting. So these are some of the festivals we have. We have the Ganesh Chaturthi, which is where we bring, like how we did with desire in spring. In this, what we do is we make an image of that aspect, which is what allows matter to come together. So Ganesha is actually Lord of Ganas, and Ganas is this very elemental intelligence that brings together. It's like cells come together to form liver, cells come together to form kidney. So there's some intelligence which tells them, though they begin with one cell, so that intelligence is embodiment of Ganesha. So Ganesha is an embodiment of that intelligence. So now, as with autumn, we are moving towards death gateway. What happens during this festival is that we really we create this image of Ganesha, which is an elephant-headed god. Yeah, it's the strength. An elephant also represents that. So there's a lot of symbolic meaning to it. Yeah, and then we bring that energy into our house. Yeah, everyone brings it. We pray to it. People, and I mean, not every part of India does that. So it is brought into homes. For it stays in the home for 3 days or 5 days or 7 days or 9 days. I think it must have been 9 days in the old times. And then it is again taken and released back into the ocean. And you really create this, you bring some, you bring home, then you bring life into it, and it becomes a member of the house. The Ganesha, people have such deep relationship with Ganesha that sits in the house. It's like a member. Sweets are prepared everywhere, every day. Puja is done, so everybody gathers around this guest, and they fall in love with it. And towards the end, after 9 days, you have to take this Ganesha, and you take it. Everybody goes, takes it to the river or the ocean. They cry as they let it go and see it dissolve into the waters and being carried away into the water to come back. And they sing that, hey Lord, hey Ganesha, come back next year, come back and spend time with me again next year. So it's this, so it's also simulating together this emptiness and autumn, and also asking it for protection. So because this intelligence that is part of the coming together of cells and people and everything, any project, we are praying to it that as I move through this autumn and winter, enter into this death gateway, let me survive this. Hold me intact, hold me together. That's why it's a lot of obstacles, yeah. And then there is this Navaratri also that happens. This is again now in spring week. The Navaratri was focused on life and cleansing and moving towards life. And here, the autumn Navaratri is actually about moving towards rest and rejuvenation and rebirth. So they both have different energies, yeah? And then we also, this whole thing begins with the Mahalaya. There is like in Kerala, we have the ancestral rituals, which starts right at the beginning of autumn. As we enter into Cancer, and the autumn equinox, we have ancestral rituals on the dark moon, and that's how we enter, because it's the peak of rain for us. It's dark, such darkness beholds us during that time. Now it has shifted, but I remember even as a kid that, they would say that when it rains, the crow cannot open its eyes. It rains so continuously, tropical rains. So we do our ancestral ritual then, and in many parts of India, the ancestral ritual happens in this dark moon, which happens in Virgo Libra. Yeah. Well, here we have this is the most beautiful time, autumn. Yeah, because the sunsets are pinkish hues, magenta. Yeah, there's such beauty in the sunset. If you look at lavender and purple sunsets, it's a time of slowing down and really reflective, very reflective. Sharad, it's called the season of Sharad Ritu. And so this Navratri is called Sharad Navratri. And some tips for autumn. So keep the air in balance. So especially during 2 to 6 a.m. and 2 to 6 p.m., do not travel, do not do too much moving, talking, avoid that. Slow down, slow down, slow down. So engage in practices that really reduce your cortisol secretion, nourish your adrenal glands, nourish your kidneys and pancreas and liver. Create aloneness also in this. Even if you're in a relationship, make room to have aloneness, solitude. Oil massages. In India, we do a lot of warm oil massages during this time, especially to all these areas of our throat. We even we put warm oils inside our ears. We put dip key or little warm oil, dip the finger, put it inside our nose. We do oils in our neck, all the sensitive region, joints, all the joints, yeah, and between the fingers, same with the hip. For women, the lower back, the knees, ankles, toes, between the toes, under our feet, top of our head. So all these, so we are moving and creating this earthiness, letting things move towards the earth, because winter is akin to our midnight time. It is moving more into the earth system. So we avoid eating cold things as autumn and winter. Drink a lot of warmth, because since the sun is connected to our digestive fire, so sun is less. So our eating here has to be really very conscious of what we are eating, and eat things that keep your fire alive and that your fire doesn't have to work too much to digest it. So eat things which are easily digestible, and yeah, making love during this time. There's something about this longing and love in this time, that can really be nourished and supported. And gentle yoga, nothing fast during this time. Really slow down your pace in autumn. And I know that many of our modern festivals don't support this. We go completely on the other side during this time, getting too activated. And then we come to winter, just like that, we really need to hold ourselves in winter, because a lot of a trauma map can get opened up from autumn and can stretch to winter. And I have a feeling like a lot of suicides and a lot of deaths, of unprecedented deaths, happen during this time. Accidents can happen. A lot of such calamities and catastrophic events happen during this autumn winter time, because death gateway really opens up. So we have to walk very consciously, humbly, surrendering to the being space. So this is the time to nourish back your faith in the universe and become light. Yeah, darkness increases, day becomes short, space permeates, stillness emerges, melatonin release surges. So during this time, really, when you rest, your melatonin intake will really start building up, and the jet lag, the lagging, starts getting adjusted and aligned. Yeah. So rest well, make use of this time to hibernate. Don't go against the body. Don't be in war with your body. Because then spring comes, you will find yourself exhausted. So make a lot of room for silence. Very important during this time. doodle, read, listen to slow music. It's also time, a lot of sadness and grief can open up, and allowing it to go. Yeah. Death, decay. Yeah, and earth also moves in winter into the phase of less fertility and resting. And in India, we have many festivals, December, Jan, when we don't do any agriculture, there's a whole period that we don't do anything. We don't even do weddings. We don't do anything auspicious during that time. We allow the body to be slow and restful. Yeah, and winter, hunger can really increase. If you have good fire, if you're really working well in the, through the other parts of the year, your hunger can increase. So nourish yourself with good food. Yeah, don't eat junk, but really good seasonal pumpkins and squashes and yams, and that are not making you light, but that are building, that are allowing support and strength. Yeah. So foods or fruits and vegetables that grow closer to the earth are what are best for winter. You have winters, eating hot, oiling. So we need to keep the agility in the body, the flexibility, and that's very, because water begins to solidify outside. The same effect can have inside. Everything starts stiffening, so we need to bring that. We need to really allow those flexibility to getting massages and doing balance exercises, flexibility exercises. Yeah, and during this time is really wonderful. Yeah. So here, love making things are shown here. It is Shita Ritu. It's a great time for that, actually. And here we enter winter right now, actually. It is that time. We, through a whole month of lighting lamps outside. It's a reminder of to not forget light in this movement of darkness. As moving towards death and the feminine and rest, we keep remembering light and ancestors. So it's so interesting, right? It's end of the year. We have all these purchase plans. Things people are buying new things. So this is the time actually we don't buy anything new till March when Uttarayan starts. Don't buy new things, please. This is in the northern hemisphere, yeah, and yeah, and winter. Some tips for winter: avoid dairy and sugar if possible. Sip warm water. Open your heart, nurture your sensitivity. Open your heart to yourself, not to the world. To yourself, allow your mask to come out. Really nourish your vulnerability, your sensitivity. You face yourself, work with a therapist, work with someone who can guide you, mirror for you, let you grieve, let you release, and eat freshly spiced cinnamons and nutmeg and cloves and cardamom and ginger, dry ginger. They're all very good for this time. Turmeric, they really build immunity. Ghee is really good. Even on application, ghee is really good. Go to bed early, get good sleep, avoid screen time as much as possible. Moderate exercise, not too much, moderate. Scrub massage, take time for hot baths, sit down baths. From autumn, make room for sit down baths. Soaks in tubs. And spring and summer, go out and get drenched in the rain, kind of, standing up, playful kind of baths. And really, these parts of your body, this is your fire. You really need to protect this part, all of this. And And this is something that at the beginning of every season, you can make a framework for your daily routine and what you can incorporate. So this is the reason why I started creating my own lunisolar calendar, which makes room for this transition and supports us to kind of make room for that. Yeah. And every year I release that. You can get that. You can look at my website, rekhakurup.com, and you will see it there. You can buy it every year and use that to navigate or create, keep a journal aside. You don't even need to buy anything. You can do it just with what you have. And, yeah. So I feel like I need a pause. It's winter time. I'm making this video and I need to sip some hot water as my throat has become dry. And the word that comes for me is nourish. And I feel like I need some oil in my ears as a nourishment. So here I am. I have made some water with it's called ajwain. This is again a very good. Let me tell you what it is in English. To boil water with ajwain, especially carom seeds. Yeah, ajwain or carom seeds. Yeah, and those are wonderful because it has fire aspect to it. So autumn, winter, boiling water with ajwain and drinking it really keeps the fire, keeps your insides warm. Yeah. And the more you keep your inside warm, the stronger your immunity gets, and you can really avoid cold, yeah, those kind of flus of winter by really incorporating these herbs and spices in your food and in your water that you consume. So that's the circadian rhythm. That's a seasonal rhythm. Yeah? And whatever season you watch this video, just see how can you incorporate that. How can you incorporate this seasonal rhythm of the being and doing? Make room for that. And may this video guide you and support you. Okay, blessed be. Blessed be. Blessed be.